Hello, everybody. Welcome again to ATS Live here at ATS. We're really excited again to come and be with you on a Thursday at 11 o'clock. Joe Gehring, a regular of most when we do these ATS Lives. And we also have Laurie, who is our safety manager, with us today. And guys, what we're going to be talking about today is exactly why Laurie's here, is safety, right? Why is it important? How is it important to ATS? Why is it important to you? So again, we want to thank you guys for joining. We love it when the comments come in. We're only going to keep doing this, right? Because we're doing it for you, the driver. So with that being said, Laura, if you'd just like say a couple things, just to say hello to everybody, and everybody knows Joe.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me today. I appreciate the invitation. It'll be nice to interact with the drivers we have and new prospects to tell you how important safety is and how we value it here and how it's all about supporting our drivers.
So you guys, here we are in driver recruiting, and so we're doing these. So first off, I always want to thank our active drivers that take the time to participate on these with us. And for sure, this platform is for drivers that are still kind of kicking tires to try to determine what that next carrier is that they're going to. So we've been talking a lot about our pay raises. We've been talking a lot about the earnings that our drivers are making here today. Our goal is for every week to have a different area of discussion. And so safety is by far safety first at Anderson Trucking. And so we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about cameras and explaining what kind of cameras we have, why we have them. We're going to talk a little bit about hours of service. We're going to talk about accident mitigation. So everybody's clear on exactly what it is that we are doing here at ATS. So for the folks coming on and saying hello, I appreciate you guys joining us. And we always kind of roll into this, but we know this is recorded. And frankly, we know a lot of the audience are folks that watch this after the live event. But Laurie, let's talk a little bit about lytics. And so I know that we get a lot of questions about, do you guys have a camera? And we are 100% yes, we have a camera. But we only do forward facing. We do not do in-cab. We do not do audio. And I think it's critical that our drivers know that we actually have a signed contract that we don't have the option of turning those things on. When we signed our contract, it was for forward facing only. So in your role, you get to talk to a lot of the drivers that don't care for the camera. Can you talk to a couple of examples of the drivers that were against it and that are now very pro of having a camera?
Well, certainly. Immediately with the camera, we identified 13 cameras on the road. We identified the benefit of having a camera in the truck forward facing. I can tell you I was working on a Saturday, got a phone call from an officer at the scene of an accident who said, your driver's been involved in an accident. The claimant is saying that your driver came into his lane. I'm writing a citation. I'm not leaving this accident without writing a citation. Get me a video in 5 minutes and I'll know, who I'm writing this citation to. And within 3 minutes, we had proof that our driver had maintained his lane. The claimant vehicle struck our back tandems by hydroplaning, right? It was an immediate video to the officer exonerating our driver and defending the choices that he makes out there every day, day in and day out, to keep himself safe and the motoring public. So the event recorders became immediate success with exonerating and defending that good safe driving that our drivers do every day, day in and day out.
Can I ask, so how many active units do we have on our fleet today?
Oh, 1,300, 1,400.
Okay, so there's not a driver with us that does not have the forward facing, correct?
No,
okay.
Forward facing, no sound, installed in every unit at ATS.
Okay.
So.
And as we're talking about the lytics cameras, so it is a non-negotiable for us here. And we kind of anticipated a little bit of turnover when this happened. We had a couple of drivers that did make the decision, and frankly, we've had a number of those drivers that came right back as well, because safety is a culture. So maybe the camera's a little bit irritating where it looks like Big Brother's watching you. And Jimmy, you talk to a lot of drivers that bring up the cameras right away. But what I want to really get out there is we're not going to change the policy because, like Laurie just said, it does exonerate our drivers. And it's those drivers that got saved one time that saved their career as a commercial driver that said, I'm now a fan. And we have a lot more of those drivers that we actually have reach out to some of these drivers that are, think about e-logs. We were on e-logs in 2009, and it became formal when, Laurie?
Joe.
Okay, so let's just say within the last 2 years.
Yes,
right?
yeah, last 2 or 3 years.
But Anderson Trucking is always thinking ahead. We're not waiting for the industry to do it first and then we follow if it's safety related. And listen, we know that we have a lot of spouses that join this as well. But what I will tell you is that our ultimate goal is to keep the general public safe, but ultimately to keep your drivers safe. And we want them to be able to get home. We want them to, when they got their home time, to know that you don't need to worry about what we're doing as an organization that might put them at risk. So all of these tools, Jimmy, this discussion we just had is, what driver does this hurt?
It doesn't hurt any driver. And whether it's a driver that's a hot rod, that's a cowboy, right? And just to kind of comment on what Joe and Laurie are saying, I hear from drivers every day, right? These guys do too sometimes, but when I hear from drivers, forward facing, inward facing, this, that, and this, stress it just one more time, please. Forward facing cameras only, with no listening capabilities, no inward facing, right? I talked with a driver yesterday, Joe, that said, I'm not coming there if it's inward facing. I said, watch our Facebook tomorrow because you'll hear it directly from us that it's only forward facing. I want to bring up too again, it's safety, the safety culture here at ATS. It's what Joe had commented on, what Laurie has commented on. It's about you, the driver. It's about the general public, right? But it's also about our customer, right? Our customer trusts us with our safety record. We negotiate our safety record with our customer base to then increase our line haul rates for you, the driver, because of that. Now, is ATS a little bit more stringent in our hiring guidelines because of that? Yes, we are, right? We're hard to get into. But where we're kind of trying to show you with this live session is the why, right? Let's bring it to the why. It's for you, the driver. It's for the general public, but it's also for the customer base. Joe, I just want to bring this up. I interviewed a driver. I had the privilege of interviewing a driver that I hired. His name Carl Agee. And if anybody wants to go back in some of them and review that, what totally, and I told Joe this morning, what shocked me right away was one of the first things I asked him was, what was important to you coming to ATS? And he goes, your safety culture. As a recruiter, that was the first time I had heard that as one of the reasons why they came here. And it's from Laurie and her whole team, from Joe and our whole team, right? It's all about you, the driver, and it's keeping you safe, but it's also keeping the general public safe. So,
well, and June, I'm seeing your note, and Paul, thanks for responding. But yeah, so when it comes to anything with the installation of your cameras, and if you gotta get a windshield replaced, don't worry about it. When you're calling into the shops to get that set up, all of that is facilitated for you. And I believe what Paul is saying is correct, that it gets switched out at the same time. And I appreciate you taking the time to give it an opportunity. And you're one of those that I know quite well. And I just want to tell you, I appreciate the fact that for a lot of our tenured drivers that had an issue with this, those were the ones that we were probably the most concerned, the ones that have been with us 10, 20, some of them 30 years. And I have to say a very small percentage made a decision to leave ATS. And again, of those that did, the significant majority of those drivers ended up coming back. So like I said, safety culture is never going to be anything different than what it is. It's going to always be on the top shelf of everything that we do here at Anderson Trucking. 68 years of doing this, one of the things that Laurie knows is we get a lot of audits and brand new customers, and we're extremely proud of, our customer base is what makes us who we are and why you guys make the money you have. But they've got expectations. They're saying, you don't have the camera, you're not going to be our house carrier. You don't have accident mitigation, you're not going to be our house carrier. You don't, have a very strict rule on hours of service, you're not going to be our house carrier. So what I'd like to do, Laurie, is we talked briefly about hours of service too. I think a lot of people come from other carriers that they can't make their paycheck unless they're walking that safety line. We do things here to where they can absolutely follow the rules and still make the paycheck. Could you you were telling me something about when you're pre-planning a load.
Yep.
And hours of service are there?
Yeah. So to your point about worrying about choosing safety or walking a line between safety and production, I can tell you that ATS has their operations team owning safety. So while I'm a part of a safety department, every conversation you would ever have with safety, you will first and foremost have with your fleet manager. They are invested 100% in making sure you're never in a position where you're choosing your safety over production. That we know no one wins when that happens. So we make operations an integral part of making sure that you get and are given options to always be doing the job safely. And part of that is we dispatch loads at 50 miles an hour. Our planners are reviewing the hours of service tabs that they see for the specific driver they have in the area. They're working down the hours to see, is this doable? Is this possible? To the best of their knowledge with the information that we have. Once a load is dispatched, a driver obviously starts his trip planning, and or his or her trip planning, if they wind up seeing an error or a problem or a potential issue, they're empowered to call in, let us know, and we start working, right? We figure out what needs to happen. Is there places that we break sooner? What do we do so that first and foremost we remain within the regulation? We can never ask our drivers to do something against regulation and jeopardize their potential freedom, their success, and how their industry measures them as well. We wouldn't ever want to do that. So in here, we can get creative with solutions that are obviously legal, safe, and respectful of the job our drivers are trying to do and get done.
Well, and I want to add so Laurie, you do a welcome speech to every new driver that comes in every Tuesday morning, and I get the honor of following you on that. But I think, talking to the audience right now, and again, I see that there's a number of our drivers that are on here too that I really appreciate. But, when we talk about the hours of service, we don't know your history. We don't know what carrier you've come in with. And I always beg and plead to just say, do us a favor, leave your past problems with your past carrier. Give us the opportunity to show you who we are and how we operate. Because if you're already anticipating that we're going to be similar to a prior carrier, that our safety, let's just say our safety culture, and culture is, Jimmy, everybody in this building is safety.
Absolutely.
Right? It's not just a department, it is an organization. And you got to give us the opportunity to let us show you that we are doing all of these things not to save money on gas. We're not doing it to whatever increase productivity. We're probably getting less productive than we could be, but we're doing it right. And one of the things that's kept me here for 31 years is knowing that I work for an organization that does what's right, whatever that might be. So I got to ask you, Laurie, so when you meet new drivers, what is, if you had to say the biggest key message that you tell a new driver on that first day of meeting our safety department, what do you think the most important message is that you deliver?
Well, I appreciate them choosing us. I think, there's no question there's a million places for drivers to be. And to be with ATS and to start that new adventure, I'm grateful for it. They are how we're successful. Without drivers, we don't have ATS.
Agreed.
So that's the first part of my message. The second part is that their success is our success. Everyone who works in these beautiful buildings we have is reminded of that. Everyone I work with is reminded of it weekly. So together we can be successful, whatever your personal goals are in trucking. We offer a great career path here, right? But to stay in this industry, you have to protect that CDL. You have to be safe. You have to protect your body. You have to protect that CDL. And so we want to be a part of protecting that for you so that you're successful and we're successful. This industry in the last 10 years has changed significantly. You think about our drivers that were resistant to lytics at the very beginning, the real tenured drivers. What we really had conversations about is how the roadways have changed, how speed limits are higher, how distracted driving amongst the four-wheelers is, it's catastrophic, right? There isn't a day that a professional driver couldn't identify 10 or 12 vehicles that would never be able to spot the semi he's in. They wouldn't be able to identify him at all because they're so distracted. So the technology that we've incorporated is really to protect our drivers from the changes in the industry, the excessive speeds out on the roadway and the distraction, and the things that they can do, to protect their ability to be in this industry. So that's my message to them.
I agree with that. And I think the big message, Joe hit it on it early, is, this isn't to eavesdrop on you drivers, right? It isn't to just, it's not there to penalize you drivers. Well, I've been safe for the last 10 years. It's not that either, right? Because I'm the one that's talking to the drivers every day. Me, Robbie, John, Patrick, Holly. That's a common theme is, well, I don't like the Linux system. Well, to what Laurie's point just was, right? Adaptive to change. And there was a comment up there I'd seen earlier from Donald, if you drive safe, you don't have to worry about the cameras. Well, that's kind of there too, but it's also there if something happens to Laurie, when somebody, an accident happens, you are protected if you're driving safe. And I just would ask any driver, as Joe said, right? When you come here, give us a chance to show you and prove to you why the safety culture works, right? Because your paycheck is only going to increase. That's how I view it. That's what I tell my drivers. We're invested in safety because of you, the driver. Our customers are invested in ATS because of you, the driver, are keeping their product safe, right? It's a handoff, one or the other. We've talked a lot about how our upside pay has gone up. We've talked a lot about that. This is a byproduct of that. Our safety culture is a byproduct of why our freight rates are going up.
Well, and there's a couple of comments I'm going to jump on here really quick, but I just want to kind of add to one thing. So for anybody who's looking at ATS, do understand that we disqualify about 95%. We actually review 4.7% of all applications that come in. What I'm proud of is that there's all this talk about driver shortages and all of that, and frankly speaking, there's just a shortage of safe drivers. And the reality is there's a lot of drivers still out there right now, but we have not cut any corners as it relates to our hiring guidelines for what we're expecting with the drivers' past safety patterns. And again, that's one of the things that I will have to say, that being in the recruiting department, it kind of really stinks sometimes. You got somebody who's got 10 years, but they just couldn't stop getting those speeding tickets, or they just couldn't stop getting those preventable accidents that we're coming across. And Don, you brought up a question about miles with other companies. I can tell you that there is some consideration given to that.
Yep.
And so it's a area to where if the company does not have the same safety culture as ATS, well, then we're probably not going to count it. We can tell by safe stats what companies we will grandfather in, correct, Laurie?
So we require documentation from that company to have them count towards the miles. There is a small process that we'll use. The driver will be very actively involved in that process. I can't tell you that every mile from every company comes over, but we run you through the check down and have brought in miles from other companies before.
Okay, so just, Donald, what you might want to do is get with your fleet manager, but the reality is our safety department will look at it. So if you were under the assumption that it was only ATS miles, that is not a true statement. So get with your fleet manager. You want to reach out to me. I always try to give my personal email while I'm on these.
It's the easiest one out there. It's the easiest one out there.
Mine and Raleigh's are the two. So it's just joe@atsinc.com. But Don, I would guess that if you reach out to your fleet manager, they'll be able to get you in touch with safety for them to take a look at it. And Billy, I'm looking at your comments. I have no idea the circumstances of what you're talking about with an accident. We call this Ask Us Anything, so there's not a comment that I'll ignore or veer around. But if there's something more to this and you would like us to reach out to you to review your file, I'll be more than happy to do that. But without having any facts, I really can't comment on this platform, at least right now anyway. So let me know if you would like me to dig a little bit deeper into that, okay? So let's talk a little bit. By the way, got to keep reminding you guys, these events are for you. And so not many companies are saying, hey, we do this every Thursday at 11 o'clock. There's never a time that we won't be here. And when we say ask us anything, we're purposely bringing up some of the things that tend to be pain points sometimes, especially in recruiting.
Exactly.
But we're proud of it. And so talking about Linux cameras, talking about accident mitigation, talking about hours of service, heck, talking about our trucks being governed at 65 miles an hour. we got answers for all of those things, and we'd like to explain the why and why we're so committed to doing those. So, so let's talk. Go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt. There was one comment that I'm actually curious about from Alicia. What do drivers get when they achieve 1 million safe miles? I don't know the answer to that question.
They get a whole lot of recognition, and they get some money, and they get, based on how many miles you've got, it's either kind of a nice, very expensive watch. I don't know, there's a lot to it. All I know is you will always personally be congratulated by our chairman, Raleigh Anderson, and pretty much the entire executive committee. So being 1 million mile here is a big deal. If you ever walk down our hallway coming into the safety department, we've got what we call our wall of fame. And I'm proud of it that we've got hundreds of drivers' pictures that are on that wall that are 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. Do we have a 4 million?
I don't think so. No.
So I thought we did.
Yeah.
But I know that we've got a lot of million milers, a significant amount of 2 million milers,
Yes.
and then there's an elite few. But just remember, you guys, 1 million miles is typically 10 years.
Yeah.
But there was, I'll never forget it, a week that I got to celebrate in 3 30-year, 3 million mile drivers on the same week. So that's pretty darn exciting.
Wow.
Especially for an old guy.
I've had guys, Joe, that asked, we used to back in the day do fishing trips and things like that, take the guys in and do stuff like that. I don't know if that was around safety, but again, it just, ATS values that, right? So what Joe just said, I mean, they used to do fishing trips, and there's things that we do, for you, the drivers. There's money involved, but it's more recognition, right? That I think that's the big thing, and it like Joe said, it's all the way from the top all the way down to us three, right? We appreciate what every single one of you drivers are doing out there for us.
Hey, and William, I don't like to have any comment not responded to, but again, I really appreciate you active drivers of ATS coming on board, because that just helps us solidify that we're hoping that's how you feel, and that we do put your side of this into every decision that we make. And frankly, listen, I'm going to say this too. It was last week, I think I had a meeting with your boss, which I think is Nathaniel. And we were talking about drivers that actually had a very good safety record, but the sensor kept going off. And until they saw the video and they could see that their following distance was in fact too close, without seeing it, they absolutely believe that they're the safest driver. And the great thing is when they can step back from that and say, I just learned something that I never knew about until I could see that video.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I would say, William, it's fantastic to hear that we value your judgment. You are the captain of the ship. Safety and everyone else here is here to support you in always making that choice that protects you and protects ATS. And as humans, we're known for trying to make decisions and do things with expending the least amount of energy. And over time, when we have success with all that, sometimes we believe it's because we're doing it the right way and the safe way. Traffic is no different. I mean, you look out on the freeway and the following distance out on the freeway that's modeled to us day in and day out. It's terrible. It is it's less than. It's very dangerous, actually.
And we know the frustration of the four-wheelers.
Yeah,
I mean, we know what a four-wheeler is.
We do, right? So we have to take extra steps to protect ourselves from them, from the choices they make, so we're not consequence to what decisions they make. And so I think it's really important that cameras have given us that ability, not as punishment. It has never been implemented as punishment. It is not. We're not here to slash and dash, as some people kind of think. It's more of, think of a professional football player. They view video of their performance all week long in preparation to improve their skill, to evaluate the other people around them. Lytics is no different. I highly recommend drivers watching their own videos, seeing what they do well, seeing how they control environments, and then learning the places where maybe they have been a little complacent, because maybe traffic hasn't come to a complete stop on them in a while. So they haven't been able to identify that there's less than following distance there. I can tell you with every rear end accident we have, there's no sign in the roadway that says in 30 seconds a lady's going to drop her lipstick and get that little Civic to a complete stop. That sign doesn't come out. So
Good example.
our drivers always have to be protecting that space.
I'm
for
glad
the
you called out the
unexpected.
lady drivers.
Wow.
I'm kidding, ladies.
Wow.
I'm kidding. You guys got a great record. Hey, Don, just one last on you. Maverick would absolutely be one that we want to look at. So again, reach out to your fleet manager or reach out to me when this is all done. Paul, I appreciate your comment about the transparency. 100%. Again, our goal, our entire commitment of these ATS lives are, we call it Ask Us Anything because transparency is what we do believe that we are honestly trying to do. And again, we don't avoid any particular questions that come at us. Every now and then I'll get something up there that's kind of absurd, and that's okay. We deal with those, don't we, Jim?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And just some of you that maybe joined late, right? It's about the safety culture at ATS. Just want to review a couple things. Forward-facing cameras only, not inward-facing with no listening capabilities and the Linux system. Yes, when you come to ATS, you can expect that. But expect that because of what we just talked about and shared with you earlier in this video. I'd seen we had a few more people jump in and on, Joe, so I just thought it was important to, call, as like Joe likes to say, the elephant in the room. I don't view it as the elephant in the room, and a lot of my drivers don't either that are here. Yes, some of the pushback to the older, generation of drivers that were, peeking over their shoulder. But most of the drivers I talk to, they don't even see it sitting even on the dash or where it's sitting. They don't even pay attention to it because they're focused on what their job at hand is, and that's to keep people safe. So I wanted to say again, I love that we're doing this, right? Because you can hear from us what we're doing back in the mothership here and what we're projecting out for you, the driver. But it's also we can get to hear from the drivers, right, Joe? With what you guys, what's on your mind. It's a lot of stuff. Normally on our Wednesday night, there's a whole lot of comments coming in. That's what we want to hear. We can try to help improve things with the comments that guys coming in. So I just think it was important just to review that, the safety measures again.
So one of the quick things. So we're getting down to the end of the session. We'll never stop these if questions are coming in. But some of the questions have kind of died down. Folks, just remember, the more that you guys comment, even after this live is done, we are constantly monitoring the live event. And if you guys can let us know, one of the reasons we're here today talking about safety is I did get some messages after last week saying, hey, could you spend a little bit more time talking about your safety culture? So that's what we're going to do. If I get a number of messages in next week talking about what the orientation process is, or what happens when you do have your first preventable accident and how is it handled with safety, we'll talk through whatever it is that you'd like to talk through. But at the end of the day, when the comments stop coming in, my goal today was to talk about the Linux camera, was to talk about hours of service, which we've done both of those. Accident mitigation was the one thing that we haven't spent a lot of time on, but pretty much all of our trucks are also equipped with accident mitigation. You want to take just a couple seconds to explain the decision and what values you see to our drivers with that?
Yeah, so accident mitigation does a lot of different things for drivers out on the roadway. A couple, you got the adaptive cruise that helps you protect your following distance without actively managing it yourself. There's some stationary object features where if identified on the road, something's sitting, the truck will alert you to that. If you don't react, then it'll brake for you. The decision for this technology really is to have that ACE in a driver's pocket when it all goes south out on the roadway. We know accidents take seconds, from start to finish, seconds. So there are times where you're checking a mirror over here and you might miss a second or a half a second and then some time to process what's going on. So that accident mitigation really is a fantastic feature for an industry that's changed, for an environment, frankly, those roadways 15 years ago were safer than they are today. Yep. So there really is that ace in the pocket. It's to help mitigate when things go south. It is absolutely not in replacement of a driver. I don't think you will ever have an ATS person say they'd rather have accident mitigation driving the truck. That's not it. Right. Most of our newer vehicles now, just out on the roadway, are equipped with those features as well. So the technology's come a long ways. I got a dad that drove it 30 years ago and said it was junk, and I put him back in one, and he's like, yeah, this is good. They've come a long ways. Just like that iPhone, right? The first iPhone you have is very different than the most recent one you got.
Well, by the way, so I saw a boo come from Samantha. I don't know how to respond to that, Samantha. So, Lamont, I always love seeing you. Like I said, I love seeing all you guys coming through here. So you're kind of joining late. Maybe you're just letting me know that you just got on. I don't know, Mr. Leonard, but you guys, again, I'm gonna kind of close it off with this. I'm gonna kind of leave the parting words for Jimmy here today. Laurie, thank you for making yourself available for this today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes.
It's just very educational for the drivers that are considering ATS. So I can't stress it enough. Please come with any questions that you've got. The more that you give us during the live session, the better it is, because it allows the discussions to go. It might generate a question with somebody else. If you think of something after the fact, or you're watching this and this is no longer live, just do me the favor, write comments, because we are watching it. So
There's our next Facebook, or there's our next one, orientation. I've heard it a couple more times from other drivers too. So Dominique just said, you know what, and you know what, that's to Joe's, what he said, right? We're hearing from drivers, right? We're hearing what's on your mind. It'll help us kind of put some topics together. I know I've seen another one. I'm going to answer for him. If anybody, what I love about working for Joe Gehring, right? He knows every single one of you drivers.
I gotta get my wallet out now.
No, guys, you know this. When a driver walks in, Joe knows you by your first name, right? That is impressive to me, to work for somebody like that. I try to share that. We love it when drivers come up upstairs to see us when they're in town. Again, no, this is all about you, the driver. Any drivers on here that aren't, that are thinking about making a career change or coming to ATS, it's the culture here at ATS. It's the safety culture, but it's all about you, the driver experience. What the drivers experience out there is so important to not only us three, but this entire building, right? So if anybody just takes anything from this, we're not looking over your shoulder. The safety cameras in the trucks are for your benefit. As to Laurie's point, to learn from, take a peek at it and go, wow, I guess I didn't know that, right? Help you learn, but also to keep you safe, keep the public safe, and keep our customer freight safe, which is only going to help, right? Keep our customer freights going up and keeping our customers happy, and more customers coming to you for you guys to pull for. So Dominique, Lamont, everybody out there, Joe at atsinc.com. If anybody wants to get a hold of him, it's the easiest email at ATS. He will respond to every email that he gets. Trust me on that. You can call me, Jimmy, or call the recruiting department. We're all here from 8 to 5. We're here every day. We'll answer any questions that you have. Give us a call. I got me as a recruiter, Robbie Schaefer, John Hayes, Petra Crooks, Holly Morrison, and Paul Irvin. Just give us a call, and we'd love to talk to any one of you.
And by the way, I don't know what bank you work at, but we are always open from about 6:30 till 5:30,
Yeah, that's
folks.
true.
So,
That's true.
all right,
Banker's hours.
So, all right, thanks everybody for joining us. And again, bottom line, I guess part of our topic is going to be talking about why our orientation is long. But remember, folks, we spend this money and all these things with the cameras, with the accident mitigation. You know what we're going to do next time is we're going to spend even a little bit of time talking about our trucks being governed and why we do that.
Exactly.
But for the time being, again, for all of our active drivers that are watching us, even if you're no longer with us, and for the drivers that are kind of paying attention to seeing if ATS might be an option, appreciate you spending the time with us again today. Continue putting comments down, because we do watch this every day, and we will respond to every one of them the minute they come in, okay? So thanks everybody from ATS.
Yes, thank you guys.
Goodbye, Lamont.
Stay safe.